What is wrong?
It's International Youth Day in 2024. Thank you for staying with us. Now, the theme for this year is Youth Digital Pathways for Sustainable Development. You know what? Let's just get into it. Two gentlemen are here with me this morning. A good number of questions that one should be asking is, again, back to the issue of awareness and back to the issue of opportunity, back to the issue of whether or not people have the skills that they need to follow the digital pathways for sustainable development, particularly for Nigeria. Whether or not we have been able to, or we can, scale down those things that we are aware of in the different parts of the country. 774 local government areas in the country, 36 states. Two gentlemen are here with me this morning. Mr. Oludare Akinlaja is a development consultant. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate your time. Yes, as well as Mr. Laolu Ibitoye, who is lead creative ideas to sites. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Let me begin with you, Mr. Akinlaja. Talking about technology and all of that, one of the orientations in my head is that young people have this superpower. The superpower is technology.
Yes.
The people who are much older today, their superpower in the 60s and 50s into 60s was education. With that, they were able to galvanize the country and take on the colonial masters to get independence for Nigeria. The superpower the young people have today is technology. Why do we seem limited to be able to galvanize that for ourselves or for national development?
All right, thank you very much for that question. I think it's the inability to fuse the strength of two generations. Now, technology is not a standalone. Technology is an amplifier. So, our parents and the older generation did well because there was some bit of understanding. There was education. People were enlightened. They knew what to do, how to do it. Now you have technology, and if we are not careful, we are going to be amplifying ignorance, right? That's why you see, you get into certain conversations. There's technology. There's more speed,
which is an amplifier.
It's quicker, but it's watery because it's not built on something solid and solid. So I think it's important that while we're pursuing technology, talking a lot about technology, we have to be focused a lot on education. The assumption or the level of assumption about certain things is and people say so much with confidence these days because, take for instance, quickly, people have set up a ring light, there's a phone, they go on TikTok, they say things, I'm wondering, did you check? Did you fact check? Did you research? So I think our ability to make a fusion of having correct information, solid people being properly enlightened, then with the advantage of technology, finding that perfect fusion point, I think, is very important for the development we talk about.
Mr. Ibitoye, do you agree with him?
I do, and what makes it even more intense is the amount of information that is available to the average 10-year-old right now. With the advent of technology, the amount of information a 10-year-old has on his iPad is much more than what was available in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, right? So there is a whole lot going on, and because of that, like you rightly said, people have very little patience to actually do their homework of knowing what is worth, what is available.
Isn't that a function of hunger or poverty or minimal means that people have? The average young people is seeing stuff and he wants to also live large, live good, live a good life.
Everyone wants to live large. But before you can get there, you're going to have to grow. It's a process. And sad to say that a lot of young people, for us right now, we find it very difficult going through process, right? Understanding that before you get to that place, those things you see, you're going to have to grow into it. There is a whole lot that you can actually achieve on the internet right now, but because we're so much in a hurry to get there, right, we are not ready to go through the process of learning, of becoming, of evolving. You see kids right now creating technological solutions, right? But for a young Nigerian who sees, oh, I want to do this, I want to get this result, but would you be able to actually learn the things, apply yourself to the skills that would help you actually attain those results? And truth is, the hunger is there, but the hunger is not your excuse for actually not doing due diligence to learning, to growing, to becoming. If you jump up, you will come down. You're going to have to grow up to get there.
Mr. Akelaja, I can see you are smiling. You are probably wondering, you probably have an idea of where I'm going. There is a Yoruba proverb that was sung in a song by a Juju musician, Ebenezer Obey. He said, if you remove hunger from poverty, then you have reduced poverty.
I agree.
Now, someone is hungry and poor, and you're expecting the person to sit down
And create.
and create. You're expecting the person to use technology for development, as opposed to, first of all, satisfying his hunger. Please, what should be his motivation?
Well, Maslow's hierarchy will validate your point. Basic instincts of survival. Right? People just want to survive and get ahead. But you see, I'm an R&D person, and so I'm very focused on data. Even in the midst of that, I was just saying something before I came in here. I was talking to you before I came in here, and I was like, I am on platforms that even have educated elites. And the conversations they have there is strange. So sometimes I don't even think it's just hunger. Because we're on a platform where we have educated elites talking as if you're wondering.
Don't forget that there is a difference between education and enlightenment.
I agree. That's what I'm going. And so I'm just trying to validate the point that there is that hunger data set, which I could even give a beautiful excuse for. Because indeed, if you're asking a man to write programs, the guy just wants to eat. You're telling him to innovate, okay? So in that, there are different sets. There's that hunger set, but I'm even saying the people who can even afford to eat, you need to listen to the conversations they're having. So and it has not become a collective. It's more of a collective issue because it's a domino effect, right? This cluster of people who are educated, what's the model they are showing to people who are hungry? Because this thing, so you go to certain areas, you hear things like the Egbo on our street or the senior brother on our street. I had a friend who got an appointment, and he called like a senior brother of his and says, I just got this appointment. What do you think? Guess the advice that was given to him. You are there now. Don't go and create anything. No. What are you creating something for? Just go there, collect. So it's a ripple effect. So it's not just leave the hunger. If the people who have some level of education and enlightenment and are comfortable take on personal responsibility, it will create a ripple effect. Take one person off the street, two, one-on-one. But there's now a collective consciousness. Both those in that hunger set and those even in the set you think can afford to eat. There's a collective consciousness that is devoid of personal responsibility.
I think we should just close this program. I think but because it really isn't a funny thing. Okay, for instance, now the theme of the International Youth Day on Monday is clicks to progress. Youth digital pathways for sustainable development. What's the percentage of young people in Nigeria who even understand the role that technology can play in development? Mr. Ebitoye, can you hazard a guess?
Okay, if I would comment on that, first is we have a load of creative people in Nigeria. See, creativity is not a problem. We are creative. But the question is, do people actually have a good understanding of how much they can actually do? You mentioned about hunger, right? The person that is hunger, you're asking him to create. If you ask me, I would say that hunger should be your fuel, should be your motivation to know that I've got to break out of this, right? So we actually do have a large percentage of people who are creative, who can do things, who can create amazing stuffs. But from where we are right now, there still needs to be a whole lot of education, right, for people to see what is available. Earlier on the show, you actually talked about the Nigerian Startup Act, right? And I can assure you that there are loads of people, especially in tech, who are ignorant about this act in itself, right? So maybe just a quick Google as to what is the Nigeria Startup Act, what provisions are actually available in Nigeria. So there's this part where the average young Nigerian feels that they don't know, they don't care about us. There's nothing they've done for us, especially in tech. But it's actually there, but we do not know. Earlier on, I think National Youth Investment Fund, right? That's actually going on, and there's the part of where, truth be told, the fact that you mentioned earlier was a key marker for me, saying that people don't know these things are out there. People don't know the opportunity, the leverages that can actually help you springboard, right? Those ideas that you actually have. So key marker is the education, the enlightenment, the path of actually announcing these things to those who actually need it the most. You'll be surprised about the fact that the people who know about these things that are supposed to be for the youth in tech space are the older generations who created it. So they've created it, but the people who it's created for have no idea about it and keep going around like headless chicken.
I find it very ironic, Mr. Akinlaja, that the most popular content in the world, the most popular media content in the world is not music. It's not movies. It's news. I'm telling you based on my own personal research, with data. Guess what? The demographic that consumes media content the most are young people. Guess what? The young people who consume media content the most don't consume news. So anyway, that's just so. I think it goes back to what Mr. Akinlaja said the other time about taking responsibility, taking personal responsibility. For instance, let's begin with that theme, clicks to progress. What do you think it means?
Well, he used the word markers. If I'm going to Ibadan from here, if I find myself at certain markers, I can identify whether I am in the right direction or whether I am in the wrong direction. So I think for me, clicks to progress speaks to the things we should begin to pay attention to for the direction of the journey we want to go into. In fairness to young people, so let's make an excuse. There's also this trust deficit. Because of how the environment has gone over the years. And you said something earlier where you said, it's not what people like us, they already know who they will give it to. That trust deficit is there, and not believing that there's anything that is going to be able to accommodate I and my people in that frame. So the trust deficit is there, which is why I'm very big on private sector, society, communities, local governments, family structures, even your estate association. I'm very particular about things at that level of cluster conversations, because whatever collective consciousness we want to reshape has to begin at that collective consciousness. Earlier on I heard people talk about leadership. I have a different point of view to how leadership is designed. Okay, and I think too many times we interpret the kind of leadership that happens in a private company and expect to see that translated into a government structure where democracy, inclusiveness is part of your decision-making process. I run a company of 25 people. I don't have to ask you. Shut it down, I'm not doing it again. Close at 4, I'm not doing it again. Go home at 3 o'clock, I'm not doing it. You can be more effective like that. In fact, there's a conversation going on globally about the design of what leadership really means. Right? Does it affect how progress is? Should leadership be contextual based on the design of the system and all of that? Those conversations are going on. So we can't keep giving blanket statements. And that's why we must be careful to define context. And that's why, for me, clicks to progress means let's sit down together and begin to redesign this pathway we are on. What do we need? What do we require? How do we redesign? For instance, one of the conversations we need to start to have is, must everybody be taught in English language?
I think you're already beginning to go to China right now. Well, Vitoye, how do you see the Nigerian youth leveraging digital technology to advance the Sustainable Development Goals? Earlier, one of our participants spoke about our failure as a country in the Millennium Development Goals. But now we have the Sustainable Development Goals that will terminate in 2030. And 2030 is less than 6 years from now. So how do you see the Nigerian youth leveraging technology to advance these SDGs, especially in areas like education, healthcare, and entrepreneurship?
Okay, so first let's pick the education, right? From there, I tell people there is almost nothing that you cannot learn online nowadays, right? And one of the major areas that I feel that we need to start from is helping people understand the path to go. There's a lot of information online. I was talking to someone who was trying to learn something recently, and she has downloaded loads of videos to watch a lot of stuff. And I say there's a lot of information. You can't go through them all. So what you need is someone to actually give you, okay, fine, this is the path. This is where you start from, and this is what goes on next, right? That helps you see a specific direction. You don't need to run into rabbit holes, right? But going further now is when it comes to creating. One of the major things I'm big on for people right now is collaboration. In our tech space right now, everybody wants to be CEO. Everybody wants to be a founder, right? Which in a lot of ways, it's pulling us down the more, right? And I'm happy for the fact that nowadays we have loads of co-working spaces doing a lot of things in collaborations, helping people, incubations, right? Incubation processes to actually take your idea from startup, right, to production and all of that. So we need to be big in the place of actually collaborating more, ensuring that we have that synergy in ensuring that we don't just, we have a lot of half-baked ideas, right? We have this, I have a big idea, the next Facebook, right? It's great, but I feel we would do more, we would achieve a whole lot more when we leverage on each other's strength, collaborate a whole lot more, and most importantly, find definite directions, right? In place of healthcare, right, there are new startups coming up for people who are trying to help people with eye impairment, right? And if you look at that idea, it's a great one. It would really, really go a long way in our environment. But when someone feels that this thing, let me just do it in this small environment, not knowing that there are policies, there are people you could collaborate with, even in government, right, that would actually take that idea from just your local environment into something that could go national, even globally, right? And in such scenarios, bringing the place of enlightenment, bringing the place of education, coming back there and telling people, see, this thing is possible. You can do more if you only look beyond your trying to get the money, getting the grant. We've seen a whole lot of tech startups actually going failing, right? Failing would be a strong word, because in my opinion, it was probably never designed to fly, right? So coming from the place of this thing can actually solve a problem. This thing can actually help achieve the goals we're actually working towards if done right. Right? So right now, it's not the fact that nothing is happening. It's the fact that things are happening probably in the wrong direction, or probably we're having half-baked efforts going into them.
Perhaps because there wasn't, or there aren't clear-cut visions.
Exactly. Before you start it out, have a clear... See, this part of people starting things but not even having an idea of what they're doing in the first place, right? It has a lot to play here. So before you even start, be sure to do your homework. Be sure to have a clear-cut direction as to where we're going. What problem are we trying to solve, right? So you're starting another idea. Okay, fine, that's a great idea, but what problem is it solving? And how exactly is this thing going to play a part in the bigger picture? Right? So it's not just because you're starting this idea to line your pocket, that is good, that is going to happen, right? But what part is this idea going to play in the bigger picture? That way, when you know what piece of the puzzle you are, someone else knows what piece of the puzzle they're actually bringing to the table, right? Before you know it, we have the puzzle, the jigsaw puzzle start looking complete, right? We start looking like the real picture we had. So 2030, 6 years down the line. For us to get there, for us to get closer, let's see each piece of the puzzle, right? In education, right? In our universities nowadays, let's tailor more of what we're doing. I know some schools in Nigeria are beginning to actually adopt this part of entrepreneurship into the curriculum, which is great. It's supposed to be, but
even
it's taking a long time, but it's happening now.
I'll tell you this for free. Go look in the law that set up the NYSC. The National Youth Service Corps. If you did not have entrepreneurship in university, you were supposed to have entrepreneurship in the NYSC. It is part of the cardinal principles or the objectives of the... Anyway, let me not even get that. Now, Mr. Akinlaja, I know we've talked about hunger, but aside from the hunger, what challenges do you think young people face in accessing digital technologies? And how do you think these challenges can be addressed?
Well, my mind works in a very interesting way. And every time I hear technology, I'm trying to understand, are we just talking about a computer, the internet, and the rest?
Well, my question is digital technology.
So the reason I said that is, let me give you an example. There is this village in the southeast where from the first cry of a child, they could tell its potential ailment.
Of the child?
Yes. I think it was, I can't remember where it is. Then these guys, I think they came from abroad, and they've attached AI to it. It's online. Yes, they've added artificial intelligence to it. I can mention it online. Yeah, it's from the cry of a child. You can tell its ailment. It's strange. So that's why I think that Nigeria is we need to start refocusing on how we think about what innovation and technology is. That's on one side.
But even that, if I can drill down on that a little bit. I saw a movie. The movie is titled Shaworoide. Shaworoide was a movie done maybe about 20 years ago. This fellow put a bird feather, the feather of a bird, to a talking drum, the large one called the Yailu, the mother of the drums, and said something. And the other fellow hearing could hear from the other end of the world that he should come home. Technology. Well, I don't know if we've been able to use AI to capture that.
No, we can, because if, for instance, there's an Okpo Ifa, there's a guy who is trying to tell you that Ifa itself has a programming language attached to it.
It is a programming system.
So what I'm saying is, before we start even talking about assessing the digital technology like we call it, we need to start understanding what innovation is. And that's why we always play second fiddle. Because we keep importing and not being able to harness from within. Of course, like that collaboration that he spoke about. We need to start driving personal innovation of our people, medically, health-wise. I know a man who has a book of drugs, but we're not going to say that because of many things. Medicines that could ailments, right? I know people who are constructing stuff, right? Let's first talk about innovation at that level. Then assessing digital technology will now be a point of collaborations. We must be big on it. That's how they can assess these digital technologies. And we must not do anything. We must not... Are we aware that even language is a form of segregation? Oh, he can't speak English, so he can't create. Why do you think because he can't speak English means he's unintelligent? Where did we learn that not being able to speak English means someone is unintelligent?
Well, I think we can just say that that's nothing.
So that collaboration. So this guy has a crude innovative idea. I have a bit that understands this part. So the four people come to, and that's where I blame young people. This idea of having CEO in front of your card, there's a certain aggrandizement it gives. CEO of what? I have a big boss who will tell you it's better to be part of collecting 2% of 500 billion naira than 99% of 10,000 naira. That's the power of collaborations. I think that's where the assessing will come from. Because the world is not a global village. So collaborations will drive it. That's why we have ideas in remote areas that have not come to light. I tell people, your ideas can be beautiful nonsense.
Can you be kind? Thank you very much. Let me ask you, Mr. Ibitoye, in terms of bridging the gaps, because we can't remonstrate the fact that the challenges are there, the gaps are there. So what steps do you think the government can take, including the private sector, to bridge the digital divide and ensure that more young Nigerians have access to the tools they need? The protests in the different parts of the country is an eye-opener. Young people didn't even know that the facility built in Kano was for them. And of course, it was easier to just go in there simply because they didn't even know. So what are the things that you think can be done to bridge the gap and ensure young people get the tools they need?
Okay, first of from that, I had my National Youth Service Corps in Kebbi State, right? And it's amazing to know that there was, I think, somewhere there was an ICT center that was built, fitted with computers, but it was never being used. In fact, they were all covered up, right? And that thing had been there for a long time, but it wasn't being used. But it was an ICT center. So now, if you ask me, I would not say that there has not been steps done by government to actually do things like that. But I would say that one of the major challenges is the people that it was created for do not know about it.
In other words,
right?
Communication is
very
inadequate.
So there needs to be more talks about what is available. You create these things. We know it's been created, but people who are created for do not know about it. So that one part, the communication, see, it does a lot for, you've put this thing in place, but you expect them to know. Or, we're expecting this thing, but we don't even know they've created it. So that part of communication may actually, see, it will help us know how far we've come and how far we still need to go. Because for the youth who feel nothing has been done, and for the government who probably feels we're doing a lot, right? And these two parties are probably doing the same thing, but there's just that gap in between.
Sometimes I wonder whether
proper communication we do a lot. And the internet is right there. A lot is going on, but it's just not.
Sometimes I wonder.
Not connecting.
Young people in the government as well. So how come they're anyway?
That's a discussion for another day.
Exactly. I have to thank you, gentlemen, for being here this morning. Laolu Ibitoye is lead creative. Ideas to site. Is that another word for CEO? Don't mind. Answer that question. And Mr. Oludare Akinlaja, development consultant. Thank you so much
very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that done. It's an initiative of the Lagos State government that's also in play. They call it the Lagos Cleanup Initiative. Is that anything to do with the monthly environmental sanitation or not? We'll find out after this break.